What's going on, guys? It's Cliffy here today, joining you from Game 3 in this 3-match series against Pakistan. And today is a little bit of a dead rubber because we are up 2-0 in this 3-game series. We've absolutely pumped Pakistan so far to date, so it would be nice to go for the sweep. And we've started off well. Can't ask for too much more than 3 for 55 off the first 10 overs. The run rate is a little bit high, but those 3 wickets in the bag will hopefully look to expose the Pakistan middle and lower order sooner rather than later. So hopefully we can go and do that. Now, there is a lot of cricket to talk about today. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the England-Sri Lanka game. Now, the Test series didn't go well for the Sri Lankans, and they have just played, I think it was just a 2-match series against Ireland. Could have been 3 matches, I'm not 100% sure. But started to find some form there. They've got a few players that have come into the limited overs side and, you know, have shown a little bit more promise than their Test colleagues. And because of that, we did see actually a tie in the first one-day international. Very, very exciting. I believe Liam Plunkett needed a 6 off the last ball. Well, needed 7 off 1 to win it. Hit a 6 off the last ball, and it was quite crazy. But the unsung heroes of this game, Josh Buttler and Chris Woakes. I think Buttler 93 off about 90, and then Chris Woakes was 93 off 95, I believe. So they went and were really, I guess, the catalyst for getting England as close as they should have got, because they were looking in all sorts of trouble towards the end of the game. So that they're done and dusted. So I was going to say someone takes a lead in the series, but they don't, obviously. It stays at 0-0 after the first game, which is something you do not see happen very often unless a game is rained out. But no rain, just a tie, and that is, you know, that is just awesome. What an awesome way to start a series. What a way to build it up. You know, a tie, a 280-run tie. I mean, you just, as I said, you just can't predict that. You just can't write that. So it is awesome, and I will be following that series with a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, with a little bit more concentration now, you know, paying it a little bit more attention. Before the series had started, with the way Sri Lanka went in the Test series, I'd kind of just written them off, just saying, you know, they can't go and do it. But now that they have gone and done this, it does look to be an exciting series nonetheless. The next game comes from the Tri-Series in the Caribbean, where Australia booked their place in the, booked their place in the final. Just the 3 teams that are in there, so just 1 and 2 head straight through. They picked up a win against the West Indies. This was a good game as well. One that I didn't watch, but I have seen the scorecard, seen a few highlights of, and it was a little bit strange, and we'll get into it just as we go and get into our next over. But I think, again, about 280 was the score that was put on the board, so a pretty good score. Marlon Samuels scored, I think, 120 odd, and really got them going. I think Dinesh Ramdin may have possibly, what a catch! What a ripper of a catch, you beauty. I'm not sure who that is. No, it's not Old Man Vittori. Old Man Vittori in this game is probably the best fielder I have ever seen. What a diving chance. Beautiful work, Dan the man, to go and pick up our first wicket of the game. But right, anyway, back to that. Marlon Samuels hit, I think it was about 120 odd. So he's been in pretty good form with the bat. And obviously his rivalry with the Australian team meant so much for him to go and obviously get that 100. There just seems to be some bad blood between him and most of the Australian national team. I'm not 100% sure why. It does stem back a few series ago. I think there were a few words that were said. But then saying that, Marlon Samuels doesn't get on. You know, he doesn't get on with most people. I know they've had, he's had a little bit of a run-in when it's come to Ben Stokes in the English team, and, you know, just a few others. So, anyway, he scored that. I think Dinesh Ramdin may have scored some runs too. I think, yeah, I can't quite remember what he scored. I think it was about 90 odd. So those two were really the backbone of the West Indies side. Now, when it came to the batting, I can't quite remember the Australians who did get runs. I don't think anyone got 100, but I think everyone went and chipped in. Steve Smith, I heard, played a fairly good innings, and towards the end, and now this is the interesting point that I was going to talk about, Mitchell Marsh did come in ahead of Glenn Maxwell. So Mitchell Marsh coming in at number 5, and personally, this is something that I do want to talk about a little bit, because I think in the situation that they were in the situation they were chasing, Mitchell Marsh is a good batsman, and he is an explosive batsman, but he kind of reminds me a little bit, you know, of someone like a Jacob Oram for New Zealand. You know, he's one of those guys who can't, well, he can go out there and hit from ball 1, but he's one of those guys who is a little bit better if he's given a little bit of time to play himself in, and I think that was the case. He hit 70 odd. It was his 8th one-day 50, I believe, but yeah, hit 70 odd, and it really was him and Maxwell that did see the side home. So potentially we could see him batting higher up. I mean, 5 is definitely not out of there. I think him and Maxwell can alternatively switch because they both, you know, can go and get the job done. I think Maxwell's more of a guy, you know, who's going to come in and just hit from ball 1. You know, rather than Mitchell Marsh, who can do that depending on the situation, but would prefer to go and probably play himself in a little bit, you know, get a few balls under the belt, you know, get bat on ball. So he hit that. Maxwell hit, I think it was about 48 off about 27 balls or something similar to that. So he really went and took the side home. They got there with, I think, 8 balls left to spare. So a very, very close game, but did get there in the end. And that, as I said, saw Australia through into the final of this Caribbean Tri-Series, which has actually been quite exciting. There was a lot of talk, you know, before it happened that West Indies were just going to get blown under the map by these Australians and South Africans because, you know, just the difference in quality was easy to see. But West Indies have really stood up and they have really made themselves count in this series, which is good to see. You know, it is good to see them because in recent times, not so much in the shorter forms of the game because they were T20 champions just, I think, 2012, 2014, maybe. They were the World T20 champions. And, yeah, they just, I guess, in the longer form have struggled and they have lost a few players. But when it comes to limited overs and they do have all their stars, you know, they have their Bravos, they have their Pollards. You know, Gale wasn't playing, but had Gale been playing, you know, it is just a completely different West Indies side, and it's a team, you know, full of superstars, a team full of match winners that can go and get it done. So it's nice to see that even without a few of those players, I'm not sure if Bravo's playing. I know Pollard definitely is, and Chris Gale definitely isn't because he's been playing for Somerset in the NatWest T20 Blast. It is nice to see them going and putting the results on the board and seeing that, you know, they can still compete against these top tier nations, which I think is really what we want to see, you know, especially for the growth of cricket. And I think West Indies are one of those teams that, you know, you just can't dislike. They're basically everyone's second team. Everyone enjoys supporting the West Indies just because, I guess, you know, with the passion and the flair and the flamboyancy that they go and play with. So that's done and dusted. And the other game, which was a game that did take part, it took place, not take part, took place last night, and it actually was a series deciding game, surprisingly, between Zimbabwe and India, the 3rd T20 International. Obviously Zimbabwe got up, they got up in the first one, and India, I guess, showed their dominance in the second game by bowling Zimbabwe out, containing them to 99 for 9 off their 20 overs. And this game was no different. This game was actually quite a tight affair. I think it went down, I believe, India only won by 2 runs in the end. So very, very close. They did get there. I believe Saran, who had an absolute stellar of a debut, I don't think I've talked about it in a video, but he was, I think he finished with 4 for 10 off his 4 overs. He was entrusted to bowl the final over. He had 20 to work with and almost lost it. He went for 17. So yeah, a 2-run victory for the Indians there. So, you know, I think positive signs obviously coming out of that tour. That tour for the Indians was a lot about, I guess, getting players into the international scene and experience the international scene and seeing how they go. And I think Rahul and their bowlers as well, I think Saran and, you know, a few others did really excel in that area, and they probably will be playing for the national side in later times as well. I think, you know, India are they're kind of at the stage where I think they do need to make a few changes. You know, especially in their bowling department. I think their batting's pretty solid. A lot of people say that their batting is probably one of the best batting lineups in the world, which I wouldn't disagree with. But it just has been their bowling, and this is what we've seen, you know, over the past 12, 18 months when it's come to India. I mean, their tour that they went to Australia, they were scoring 300 plus constantly, and they just couldn't defend it. Just because their bowler's obviously not as great. So a lot of people are quite excited. A lot of Indians are excited that a few of these young new guys are going to come in, replace the likes of Vishant Sharma, maybe Umesh Yadav, and what is this field? and just, I guess, signal a little bit of a new age when it comes to the Indian bowlers. So it will be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, playing against Zimbabwe and Zimbabwe, a lot of teams don't send full-strength sides. It is, I guess, a proving ground for international cricket, a way to get players to experience what international cricket is about and take that step up, that step from domestic to international. So, you still obviously got to go, and you can't take them lightly. They did take a game off India in this series, and in the tour. They were very disappointing in the one-dayers, but to get a game in the T20 internationals, it shows us that, they can still compete. They are still a side that can go and get the results there. They've had a big change in leadership. They've got a new captain. I think Graham Creamer is the captain now. I think they've got a new coach as well, and they do have quite an influx of new players as well that they have introduced in this series. So they're in, I guess, a little bit of a rebuilding stage after losing some key players and some key personnel, I guess, with a change of captaincy and a change of coach. So it will be interesting to see what happens, because Zimbabwe is one of those teams, I think, like Bangladesh, just need to go and stick to it, stick to these players, and just keep getting better and just keep getting there, just keep moving on. Because you go back to Bangladesh, and I think I did talk about this in a few videos ago. You go back to Bangladesh, like 5-10 years ago, and everyone was like, Bangladesh are nothing. Played alright against New Zealand at home. They seem to be our bogey team. I don't know why. But yeah, seem to play well at home. As soon as they go to conditions that they're unsimilar with, they just get absolutely destroyed. That is not so much the case now. They can go and compete. Obviously made the quarterfinals, I wanted to say semi-finals, but the quarterfinals of the World Cup down in Australia and New Zealand last year. So they are starting to adapt, and they do have some good players that are in that side. And we have bowled economically well today. I haven't realised how well we have bowled, but we are currently 8 overs in, 1 for 13. Dan the Man Vittori picked up that incredible catch. But 1 for 13 off 8 overs. We are really going and doing the job. And I think that's why Pakistan have struggled to go and get that run rate up above the area that it is in at the moment. But the guys have been taking wickets down the other end as well, because we have been economical. We haven't really been giving too much away. And we've just been consistent. Just consistent on that line and length, just there. We're trying to get a little bit of leg cut. So just move it. Yeah, move it away. I was going to say, what am I doing? If I'm bowling leg cutters, why am I bowling on leg stump? But it should move from leg to off, as that one there has done. And that's just what it's been. And I've found this new field. I find this field works really well if you're bowling this, even if you're bowling off cutters or in swingers. And it is very good. Pace balance 5. So basically, as long as you get fairly straight there, like as long as you get on leg stump, it is going to be very hard for them to go. Well, in my experience, it is going to be very hard for them to go and pick up a boundary, because you do have players, possible caught and bowled there. Don't think so though, because you've got obviously those players in close on the offside. It is very hard to penetrate that offside, and then if you do get too close on the legs, you've got 2 men back, like one at fine leg and one at square leg. So you can go and definitely, be a little bit more lenient on your line. We're coming into our final over. You wouldn't believe. 1 for 13 off 9 overs. And they just have not been able to get a hold of us. So whether it's the pitch does look to be in pretty good condition though, looking at it now. Misbah has been, a mainstay, as normally happens with the Pakistan side. It normally is him that is going and doing a lot of the work. And it is going to be interesting to see if we do get a bat here today as well, because our videos, I don't know, the videos just seem to be going at a pretty good pace at the moment. We seem to be bowling very well, especially in one-day internationals and T20s. We seem to be getting through pretty quick. Just as I say that, though, if you go for a little bit of a slog like that towards mid-wicket, you are going to go and pick up a 4. So that's the first 4 that's come off us in a wee while. It would be nice to pick up Misbah in these last 2 balls that we do have, because great fielding. Great fielding. Would be nice to pick him up in these last 2 balls, as I was saying. The last ball now, just to go and increase those figures. But 1 for 17 off... Oh, you're joking, Misbah. You just have to go and ruin my figures and ruin what I was saying. But 1 for 21 is still fairly good stats. That's with 8 coming off the last over. So before that, obviously 1 for 13 off 9 is very, very good. That's us done and dusted. Whether we will go and get a bat, whether we'll be required to bat, is going to be interesting. I think it's only about 200 that is being chased. And we are actually going to need to bat. So we will come in, we will have a bat, see how we go. That average, it's getting up there, 26.41, pretty similar to someone, you know, like Mitchell Marsh, bit of a hitter. But because we have got off to such an explosive start, it does mean that it is a lot easier for us. And I'm just going to go for a slog, to be honest. I'm just going to go for a slog and just, you know, try and move things along. We've still got McCullum, BJ Watling still to come, and Dan the Man Vittori. And the required run rate's only 3.2. So there's still plenty of time and still about 32 overs left to go. So we just need to, you know, make sure if we can get bat on ball in those situations there, because we don't really want to be backing away too much, and you know, just try and keep the runs coming and keep them flowing at a good pace. Stop pitching it in short, put it up full so I can hit you. Everything. I should have just expected it. I should have expected it to be short, but now I think we've got a spinner that's in. Brilliant. Right, field, run. Okay, run. So either down to fine leg or down to third man, depending on where the ball is. Beautiful. You're not going to get there, Mohammed Ifran. Put those boots on, mate. Speed up. Run. Not the case. 8 off 4. So we are doing fairly well. We're just going to keep, as I said, if we're going to get those balls that are down towards, oh God, make it back, be back. Good running. I was going to say, if we're going to get those ones that are outside off, we are just going to go and run it down fine to... They still haven't changed the field. They've changed the field slightly. They've moved that man up. Oh my God. What am I doing? Cliffy. I've seen the man come up and I've just gone, you know what, we're going to go up over the top and mid-off. But it is a wide, thankfully. Did just miss leg stump. God, that's not timed very well. Not timed very well at all, and we're gone. The men come up, and we're just like, you know what, we're going to go for a slog. 11 off 6, not the greatest innings from Cliffy, but we will go and simulate through and look to wrap things up here. Hopefully we can go and get the job done still. There's still a lot of work to do. Still 3 runs and over, and I don't think we are going to go and get there unless we have an incredible display. But I think that is partly due to us. Because we did get a little bit sloppy with the bat. As we can see, Pakistan win by 28 runs. Misbah-ul-Haq. Tim Southee, 6 for 24. What an absolute gun. Between him and myself, 7 for 45. The other bowlers were a little bit expensive towards the end, but a pretty poor batting performance from us has seen us lose the 3rd one-day international. But we still do win the series, which is the main thing at the end of the day. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap things up here. Do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please remember to leave a like. If you are new, please do subscribe. Make sure you check out my Facebook and Twitter links that can be found down below in the description. Hope you guys had a good week so far and have a good weekend planned. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. I've got Cricket Coach New Zealand Reborn coming your guys' way. Make sure you do not miss that.